It started off like any regular day. I had planned to stop by my friend's house for a short visit, nothing special, just to hang out, maybe play some video games, and waste an hour or two before heading back home. I wasn't even planning to stay long. You know how sometimes you drop by a friend's place unannounced, just thinking it'll be a casual 5-minute thing? That was exactly my mindset. No expectations, no special plans, just a regular visit like I had done plenty of times before. When I got to the house, everything seemed perfectly normal at first. The front door was half open, so I knocked lightly and stepped inside. I could hear voices coming from the living room, my friend and his mom talking about something. I didn't pay much attention to what they were saying until I walked in and noticed something unusual. His mom was standing in the middle of the room, holding a broom like a sword, looking around nervously. My friend had a half smile on his face, the kind you have when you're not sure whether to laugh or panic. I froze for a second, wondering if I had walked in on an argument or some kind of weird family moment. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something small dart across the floor. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, maybe a shadow or something. But then I saw it again, a tiny, quick blur zipping under the couch. That's when his mom shrieked, jumped onto the nearest chair, and pointed dramatically at the floor. "There's a mouse in the house," she shouted, her voice a mix of fear and disbelief. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm not exactly a trained pest control expert. I've never caught a mouse in my life. The most I've ever done is swat a fly or trap a spider in a glass. But in that moment, something in me kicked in. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was the adrenaline, or maybe it was just the fact that his mom looked genuinely terrified and my friend seemed completely useless in that situation. Whatever it was, I felt like I had to do something. Without even thinking, I grabbed a nearby box, it was just sitting there on the floor, and crouched down, trying to see where the mouse had gone. The room suddenly felt a lot smaller, and I could feel all eyes on me, like I had just been appointed the official mouse catcher of the house. The funny part is, I didn't even say anything. I didn't crack a joke, didn't make a big announcement, I just moved like I knew what I was doing. Inside, though, I was second-guessing myself the whole time. What if I missed? What if the mouse ran over my hand? What if I ended up looking like a fool in front of everyone? But I couldn't back out now. I was already in it. I stayed low to the ground, scanning every shadow, every little movement. The mouse was fast, and it kept slipping from one hiding spot to another. My friend tried to help by pointing out where he thought it went, but honestly, he wasn't much help. His mom stayed perched on her chair the entire time, occasionally gasping whenever the mouse darted out. At that point, I wasn't even sure how I had gotten myself into this situation. I had come over to chill for a bit, maybe grab a snack and joke around, not to become some kind of household hero. But here I was, crawling on the floor, following a mouse around like it was my job. The moment the mouse showed itself, everything inside that house shifted from calm to pure chaos. My friend's mom, who I had always seen as this calm, collected lady who handled everything with grace, was now frozen on top of a chair, clutching a broom like it was her last line of defense. She wasn't screaming non-stop, but every time the mouse even twitched or peeked out from under a piece of furniture, she'd let out this sharp gasp that sounded way louder in the tense silence of the room. I stood there for a second, almost wanting to laugh, but the look on her face told me this wasn't the time. My friend wasn't much better. He had this awkward grin like he didn't know whether to laugh, help, or hide himself. The mouse had managed to turn the living room into a battlefield. My friend's mom had claimed higher ground, my friend stood frozen in no man's land, and I was somehow on the front lines. The mouse darted again, quick, small, and sneaky, straight from behind the couch to underneath a side table. My eyes followed its every move. I could almost hear my heart beat a little faster. I wasn't scared, not exactly, but the way everyone else was reacting kind of pushed me into that fight or flight mode. And I guess, in that split second, I decided to fight. I reached for the nearest thing I could use as a shield, a cardboard box lying on the floor. I held it like I had done this 100 times before, even though I had never even been near a mouse like this in my life. My friend looked at me like I was insane. His mom gave me this look, half hope, half fear, like maybe I could actually save the day, or maybe I was just another casualty waiting to happen. I crouched low, trying to spot the mouse under the table. The space was tight, and I could barely see anything in the shadows. My friend's mom whispered, "Be careful," like I was on some dangerous mission. The funny part was, it actually started to feel that way. I could feel their eyes on me, watching every little move I made. It wasn't just about catching a mouse anymore, it was about not letting them down, not making a fool of myself in front of my friend and his mom. The mouse darted again, and without thinking, I lunged forward with the box. I missed. My friend gasped. His mom squeaked. The mouse zipped across the floor toward the TV stand. I scrambled after it, crawling on my knees, one hand on the floor, the other gripping the box like a net. "Don't let it go under there," my friend's mom called out from her chair, pointing frantically toward the TV stand. The mouse hesitated for a split second, and that was all I needed. I slammed the box down toward where I thought it would run. But the mouse swerved at the last second, running the opposite way. I scrambled after it again. My friend was now on the other side of the room, trying to block it with a pillow of all things, as if that was going to do anything. His mom kept giving us these running commentaries mixed with short, sharp instructions, none of which actually helped. I wasn't even thinking about why I was doing this anymore. I just knew I couldn't stop now. I couldn't back away and leave his mom standing there, afraid in her own living room, while I acted like I hadn't just taken on this accidental role of mouse hunter. There was this weird unspoken pressure, like everyone had silently agreed that I was the one who had to fix this. The chase began the moment I realized the mouse wasn't going to sit still and wait to be caught. It was fast, way faster than I expected a little creature like that to be. Every time I thought I had it cornered, it would zip away in some random direction like it was playing a game of tag, and I was always one step too slow. The entire living room turned into an obstacle course. Chairs, tables, couches, random bags on the floor, the mouse used all of it to its advantage. At first, I tried to stay low and move carefully, thinking I could sneak up on it if I was quiet enough. That plan lasted about 2 seconds. The mouse darted out from under the couch, shot past my hand, and disappeared behind the TV stand in a blur. My heart raced. My friend let out this nervous laugh, and his mom gasped again. I looked over and gave them both a quick glance, half wanting to say something funny, but I couldn't risk losing track of the mouse. I shifted toward the TV stand, moving on my knees, trying to peek behind it without knocking anything over. The mouse was tiny, brownish-gray, with beady little eyes that seemed way too smart for its size. It sat there for a second, its nose twitching, probably sizing me up the way I was sizing it up. We had this weird standoff, me crouched with the box in my hands, the mouse frozen in place, both of us waiting to see who would move first. Then it bolted. I lunged forward, nearly banging my head on the TV stand, and slapped the box down on the floor, too late. The mouse zipped along the wall, darting under the small table by the window. I scrambled after it, not caring how ridiculous I must have looked crawling on the floor like some kind of wildlife tracker. My friend stayed a few steps back, clutching the pillow like a shield, ready to block the mouse if it came his way. His mom, still perched on the chair, was giving out a play-by-play, her voice going up in pitch every time the mouse changed direction. The mouse moved like it knew every escape route in the house. Under the couch, behind the table, around the legs of the chairs, it was like a high-speed game of hide-and-seek, and I was always just a second too slow. I'd lunge, it would swerve. I'd corner it, it would shoot out the other side. At one point, I thought I actually had it. The mouse made the mistake of running toward an empty corner with nothing to hide behind. I moved fast, throwing the box toward it, hands outstretched. The box hit the floor with a loud thud. For a split second, I thought I had one. But before I could even lift the edge of the box, the mouse darted out from the side and vanished under the couch again. My friend groaned. His mom shouted something about being careful not to hurt it, even though she clearly wanted it out of her house more than anything. I was sweating, crawling around like a man on a mission, determined not to let this tiny mouse beat me. I could feel my heartbeat pounding in my ears, and my arms were getting sore from crawling and lunging so much. The wild chase continued, with the mouse weaving in and out of furniture, almost like it was mocking me. I slid across the floor, trying to block its path with my arms, while my friend attempted to hurt it from the other side, waving his pillow like some kind of weird mouse wrangler. His mom kept making these little yelps every time it came near her, and I couldn't help but wonder how we had let a creature this small turn 3 people into a panicked mess. It felt like we had been chasing that mouse for hours, even though it had only been a few wild, exhausting minutes. The little thing was faster and smarter than I gave it credit for, and every time I thought I had it cornered, it would dart away at the last second, slipping through the tiniest gaps between furniture. My arms were starting to ache from crawling around on the hard floor, and I could feel the sweat starting to build on my forehead. But I wasn't about to give up now. At one point, the mouse ran straight toward my friend, who panicked and swung the pillow at it like he was trying to swat a fly. Of course, he missed by a mile. The mouse changed direction so quickly it almost looked like it disappeared. I couldn't help but shake my head. If this was a team effort, I was clearly the only member of the team actually doing anything useful. I followed the mouse toward the far side of the living room, where a low wooden cabinet sat against the wall. There was just enough space underneath it for the mouse to slip through, but not enough for me to reach in after it. I pressed my face close to the floor, peeking underneath, and sure enough, I could see its tiny body pressed against the back corner, completely still. For a brief moment, I thought maybe this was it, maybe it had finally run out of energy. Slowly, I edged the box forward, keeping my movements quiet and steady. I didn't want to spook it into making another mad dash around the room. My friend's mom whispered from across the room, asking if I could see it. I gave a small nod without looking up. My hands were steady, my focus locked on the little creature huddled in the shadows. Just as I was about to slide the box forward and trap it against the wall, the mouse darted out again, straight past me. I barely caught sight of it before it shot across the floor and ran under the coffee table. I let out a frustrated sigh, dropping my head for a second before crawling after it again. My friend laughed nervously, mumbling something about how fast the mouse was. His mom stayed silent, her eyes wide as she clutched the broom tighter in her hands. But then, something changed. The mouse made a mistake. Instead of hiding behind or under something, it darted toward the corner of the room where 2 pieces of furniture met, forming a tight little wedge of space with only one way in or out. I saw it hesitate there, maybe trying to figure out if it could squeeze into the crack between the furniture and the wall. And for the first time, I realized this was my chance. I moved fast, faster than I had the whole time. I lunged forward, dropping the box down in front of the gap, blocking the mouse's only escape route. I didn't slam it down hard, I just placed it there quick enough that the mouse couldn't get past. It froze, turning sharply as if looking for another way out, but this time there wasn't one. I reached out slowly with my other hand, trying not to make any sudden moves. I could feel the tension in the room rising again. My friend held his breath, and his mom stayed perfectly still on the chair, her eyes fixed on me. I slid the edge of the box along the floor, inching it closer, forcing the mouse into the tightest part of the corner. The mouse backed up against the wall, trapped between the furniture and the box. It twitched its nose again, but it didn't move. I hesitated for half a second, making sure I wasn't about to mess this up. Then, with one smooth motion, I pressed the box firmly against the floor and the wall, covering the little space completely. The moment I finally trapped the mouse under the box, there was a wave of silence in the room. I could feel my heart thudding in my chest, partly from the effort of chasing it all over the place and partly from the fact that I actually managed to catch it. I stayed crouched on the floor for a second, one hand pressing down firmly on top of the box, making sure there was no way the mouse could escape. It was such a strange feeling, a mix of relief, excitement, and honestly, a bit of disbelief that I had pulled it off. My friend let out this loud cheer, the kind of over-the-top reaction people give when they're more shocked than happy. His mom let out a deep sigh of relief and finally stepped down from the chair. I could see her shoulders relax a little, and even though she still looked a bit shaken, she gave me a smile that said more than words could. It was like I'd gone from my son's random friend to the guy who saved the living room from a tiny terror in her eyes. I slowly slid a piece of cardboard under the box to make sure the mouse stayed trapped as I lifted it. My friend rushed over to help, still holding his useless pillow like it was part of the mission. We both carefully lifted the box with the cardboard beneath it and carried it toward the door. The mouse didn't make a sound or try to escape, which made the whole process feel weirdly simple after everything we'd just gone through. My friend opened the door wide, and we gently placed the box outside on the front lawn. After we let the mouse go, we both stood there for a second, just watching it scurry off into the bushes. It was almost funny how quickly it disappeared, like it had never been there in the first place. My friend turned to me with this big grin, shaking his head in disbelief. I shrugged, feeling this odd sense of accomplishment I didn't even know I wanted. When we walked back inside, his mom was standing in the hallway waiting for us. She gave me a look I wasn't expecting, a mix of gratitude and genuine appreciation. I thought maybe she'd just thank me quickly and move on, but instead, she surprised both me and my friend with what she said next. She looked right at me and said, "You have to stay for dinner." At first, I wasn't sure if she was serious. I glanced at my friend, who looked just as surprised as I was. But then she smiled, a real, warm smile, and added that after all the running around and helping her out, it was the least she could do. It caught me off guard, in a good way. I hadn't come over expecting anything more than a quick visit, maybe a snack if I was lucky. Now, somehow, I'd earned myself a spot at their dinner table. I felt a little awkward at first. I mean, I hadn't exactly planned on staying for a meal, and I definitely didn't expect an invitation like that. But the way his mom said it, genuine and almost insisting, made it clear that she wasn't just being polite. It felt more like she wanted to show her appreciation in the most natural way she knew, by offering food and company. My friend nudged me with his elbow, giving me a grin like this was just another weird story to add to the list of things we'd laugh about later. I couldn't help but chuckle at how the evening had turned out. One minute, I was chasing a mouse around the living room, and the next, I was being treated like some kind of unexpected guest of honor. Sitting at the dinner table that evening felt almost surreal. Just a short while ago, I had been crawling around on the floor like a maniac, chasing a mouse while my friend tried to help with a pillow and his mom stood on a chair with a broom. Now, here I was, seated across from both of them, a warm plate of food in front of me, like I was part of the family. The shift from chaos to calm happened so quickly that it almost felt like I had stepped into a different house altogether. My friend's mom had completely changed from the panicked version of herself I'd seen earlier. She moved around the kitchen with this natural ease, setting out dishes, offering second helpings, and chatting with us like nothing had even happened. It was almost hard to believe this was the same woman who, not even an hour ago, was screaming about a tiny mouse running across her floor. But that's how quickly things can turn around sometimes. One crazy situation flips, and suddenly, everything feels comfortable again. As we sat there eating, I couldn't help but notice how different this dinner felt compared to any other time I'd hung out with my friend. Usually, when I visited, it was just casual, maybe a quick snack in the kitchen or grabbing something from the fridge before heading back to whatever game we were playing. But this felt different. It felt intentional, like his mom had invited me not out of obligation, but because she genuinely wanted me there. It caught me off guard in the best way possible. She asked me questions about school, about my family, and about little things I never thought she'd be interested in. She laughed when I joked about my terrible luck with animals and even shared a few stories of her own, including one about how she once screamed louder over a spider than she did over the mouse. We all ended up laughing together, and for a moment, it didn't feel like I was just my friend's buddy anymore. It felt like I belonged there, like I had earned my seat at that table not by luck, but by stepping up when no one else did. My friend joined in too, making jokes about how useless he was during the whole mouse chase and how I should come over more often just in case another mouse showed up. We teased each other like we always did, but this time, it felt a little different, lighter, more genuine. There was a weird sense of respect in the air, not just between me and my friend, but even between me and his mom. As the evening went on, I realized how something so small, literally, a mouse, had completely changed the dynamic of the entire day. I had come over expecting nothing but a quick visit, maybe a few laughs, and definitely no drama. But instead, I ended up caught in the middle of an unexpected adventure that turned into something way bigger than just a funny story. It turned into a moment that connected me with people in a way I hadn't expected. I started thinking about how often little things like that happen in life, random situations you don't plan for, moments you think are no big deal, and how sometimes those are the exact things that lead to the best experiences. If I hadn't been there at that exact moment, if I hadn't decided to help, I probably would have missed out on all of it, the chase, the laughter, the dinner, and that strange but awesome feeling of actually making a difference, even in the smallest way. I realized that sometimes, it's not the big events or the planned moments that leave a mark. It's the unexpected chances we take, the random ways we step up without even thinking about it, that end up turning into stories worth remembering.